So can you see my screen now? Yeah. Hi, Amrit. Can you hear me? Yeah. So you can see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay. So first, let me talk about what is the microservices and why we need to learn the microservices. Okay. So nowadays, if you see, most of the applications we are migrating into the towards microservice applications because now the industry is to reduce the application deployment cost, and also the industry is looking for the high performance applications. So if you wanted to design the high performance application, so we need to go for the microservice applications because the microservice applications are independently deployable applications. Okay. So it is not, people will think that microservices means just to break down the services into the smaller services and deploy independently. So that is not the actual definition. So microservices means breaking down the application into the smaller services based on the business functionality. Okay, and deploy into the independent servers. Let's say we have an application, e-commerce or healthcare or any banking or anything. So we have many business functionalities, right? So if we take the banking, so we have the transactions related and accounts related information and profile information and the interbank transfer information, right? So where we have a third party insurance services, and there are so many services with the banking application. So earlier, the monolithic applications, all these features are binded as a single application and even including the front end, back end, everything. So it was part of the single var file or ER file, and we are deploying it. So let's say if you wanted to scale up this kind of application, so it is going to be very difficult because all these features are binded in the single application, right? So let's say when this application is going to consume maybe some 20 GB or 16 GB RAM. So if you wanted to scale up this particular application, so we have to scale up exactly again 16 GB RAM, right? So unnecessarily you have to pay. The customer may not be using all these features, but still you are going to pay for all these services. So that is where the problem comes, and the Netflix has identified initially, to break down the application into the multiple services. So initially, Netflix they had the very big application, so they break down into the multiple services. So this is the Netflix their the application structure. So it is like the spider. So they break down into the multiple services, and they were able to deploy independently, so without any direct dependency. Okay, so the same way, so if you wanted to write any application or if you wanted to migrate any application, so first we need to identify what are the business functionalities we have in the microservice applications. Okay, so based on once we decide the based on the business functionality, so we can write into the separate services, and we can deploy it. Okay, so here the technologies we are going to use the Java and Spring Boot and the Spring Cloud. So you can implement the microservices with any technology, even with .NET or Golang or Python. With any language, you can implement the microservices. But the Spring Cloud has the more advanced features compared with other languages because the Spring Cloud is providing some ready-made features. Okay, so again, you don't need to implement by your own. So, what are the challenges with the monolithic application? So, the monolithic application, so the scaling up is very difficult, and the services are not flexible, and the development process is very slow. We are working on the Agile from last few years, but that was not the pure Agile development process because so Agile process. What is the Agile process? So when we implement an application, so that should go to the within the next release, it should go to the production, right? So, but in case of the monolithic, it is not the case. So we are implementing the features, but when it goes to the live, maybe again after 6 months or maybe 1 year again, right? So maybe the customer may be seeing the features and all, but the religious wise, it is going to take a lot of time, right? So those are the problems with the monolithic. So the microservices are going to overcome these features. So this is how we are breaking down the application. So here we have the business domain. So that has the multiple features. So each feature we are breaking down into the service, and we may have a number of services. But as for the Netflix Eureka Max, we can implement 1,000 services. If you are going to implement more than 1,000 services, then that is not the actual microservice architecture. So that is again like a spider again. So we should not go beyond 1,000 microservices. Okay. So always keep in mind. So we have to the services should be the based on the business functionality. Some people what they will do, let's say we have a business functionality, and again each business functionality based on the services or the endpoints, again they will write as the separate business, separate microservice. So when you write the more services, again the interaction will be the difficult one, right? So again the inter-process communication is going to take a lot of time. So the main challenges advantage we know. So it is the scaling up and scaling down. So this is one of the best feature, and also it exactly fits for the agile development process. Okay, so these are the main advantages I can say, and the drawbacks. So the logging and the monitoring. So it is not the drawback. So the main problem with the microservices, the logging is very difficult one, because we should be very careful uh, when you write the logs and all. So we should be able to trace all the logs with some tools and all. Okay, so we have tools like Splunk and ELK, and also we have Jenkins Lab. There are different tools so are available. So you can use any of the tools to identify all the logs and analyze the logs and all. Okay, and also the monitoring. So when you have the multiple microservices, let's say you have an application, you have a service, and you may be getting more number of requests from the users. So when you get more number of requests, well, by default, maybe that instance is one, right? So when you get more number of requests, then you are going to scaling up your application. So by default, that application will be scaled up. Scaled up in the sense it is going to launch the multiple instances based on the user request. So when it is going to launch the multiple instances, then your application may be running on the multiple servers. So when it runs on the multiple servers, so you don't know which service instance is having problem and all, right? Either issues with the logs, or you're not able to monitor the services, because when it is going to scale up, you don't know what is the host and port for the particular application, right? So again, there are different ways to deploy the application. So we have the server architecture and serverless. Server in the sense, either you can deploy your application with any physical servers, so that may be in your own infrastructure, or you can go with any of the cloud providers, right? So even in AWS we have the EC2, and Google Cloud, I think we have a App Engine, right? So you can deploy in any of them. So that is basically the physical servers. You will have a control to deploy your application in the physical servers, whereas the no server, right? So we call as the serverless architecture. So in the serverless, we will not have any control to deploy the application. So we will have some kind of just configuration control, not the server. So server, you will not have any access to that. So AWS will be maintaining the servers. So we call as the ECS, Elastic Container Services. So in the Elastic Container, we have the Fargate clusters. Yes. Yeah. So Amrit is asking a question. So we can print the IP address or host name for each instance in logs, so that way we might track down which instance is down. Yes. So we have the some kind of a tools available with Spring Boot. Okay. So we call it the admin server. So that admin service, we can monitor all the tools. So again, you can print the IP and all. So that is like again, so we need to write the custom code to track which service is down and all, right? So when the application is running, so it may launch the multiple instances. So that is the biggest issue. Okay. So it may launch 100 instances also, depends on the application load, right? So we need to track all of them. So by using the actuator endpoints in the Spring Boot admin service. Okay. So that is the monitoring application. And also we have when you go with the AWS cloud, we have the CloudWatch alarms. So in the CloudWatch, we can configure all the alarms. So whenever the service is down or any issue, then we will get an email, or even we can configure SMS alerts and all. Okay. So those kind of features are available with AWS. So during this course, I'll be talking about both Netflix Eureka, and also I'll be talking about the AWS, how to write the services for AWS. So when you go with the AWS, so we can reduce the lot of services like Eureka server and the API gateway, and even the log monitoring and all. Sorry, application monitoring services and all. Okay. So here you can see, so this is the monopoly, right? The first one. So here we have a lot of features and bind it in the single application. So that is the customer service and the client application and the product service and the card service. So when it comes to the microservices, we are breaking down based on the business functionality. So here the customer is the separate business functionality. And again, the product is same business, some different business functionality. And we have a cart, and also we have some shipping related, right? There are so many business functionalities. So this is the client browser. So the UI we are, so for UI also again we are going to write the separate service, right? So we have different UI technologies like Angular, Node.js, React. There are so many things are available. So you can use any of them. So here we are breaking down these applications, right? So in the real time, how we deploy this application? So security is the very biggest concern in the microservices. How do you provide the security with the microservices? So when you have the multiple microservices, let's say if you wanted to implement the authorization authentication for each service, so it is very difficult. And again, the maintenance will be very difficult for all the services. Let's say you have 100 services. So when you implement the security, then you have to change the security for all the 100 services if any changes in the security layer, right? So this is the biggest problem with the microservice security. So that's the reason what we do is, so we are going to make it more secure by deploying all these services in the private network. So when I say the private network, nobody will have access to that. Okay, even we cannot access in our local these particular services, because these IPs itself is the private IPs, not the public IPs. Okay, so you cannot make it as the public, those private IPs. So then how do we access from the UI application? Because so UI, either it may be Angular or Node.js. So when you call these private IPs, so these private IPs are directly exposed in the source. So when it is exposed in the source, you cannot access the private IPs, right? So then how do we access? We need to have the API gateway. So basically here we have the registry services. All the services will be registered in the registry services, and we will have the API gateway. So we have a different kind of API gateways. So with Spring Cloud, we have the Joule API gateway, and with AWS, they have their own API gateway, right? So the API gateway is nothing but the single entry point for all the services. So whenever any request from the client, first the request will go to the API gateway, and then the request will be routed to the corresponding microservice application. So basically, we need to write the routing logic in the in the API gateway, and also we need to provide the security as well in the API gateway itself. So whenever the user logged in, so first we need to validate that particular user whether he is the valid user or not, and also we need to generate the tokens, right? So every time we cannot authorize the user. So based on the token, we are going to allow that particular user to access the resources. Okay, so that is inbuilt. Even AWS also they're using the WAT2 and JWT tokens to validate the authorize and authenticate the user. Okay, so let me show you the course content. So what is that I'll be discussing during the course? Okay, so first, most of the students, they would like to start from the Spring Basic. So that's the reason. First, I'll be talking about the differences between the core and core Java and the Spring, and then differences between the Spring and Spring Boot application. And again, with the Spring dependency injection, I will be talking about XML and annotations both. And And again, the more in depth into the Spring Boot, so we have a lot of features like auto configuration, Spring Boot dev tools, embedded servers, right? And also embedded servers in the sense we no need to deploy the Spring Boot application in the any external server. So even we don't need to make it as a WAR file also. Okay, so directly jar itself can be deployed it because it comes with the embedded server. So when you run the Java file as the jar file as the Java space hyphen jar and then the Java jar file name, so it will be directly run in the server, embedded server. So let's say still some banking customers, they don't go with the embedded servers. So they may want to implement their own, security features and all. So that's the reason. So if you wanted to make it as a WAR file, so we need to write some additional piece of code to make it as a WAR file and deploy it in the external server. Okay. So that also I'll be showing it. And the databases, multiple databases I'll be talking about. So one is a SQL, either PostgreSQL or Oracle, and NoSQL databases side Mongo database and AWS Dynamo database. Okay, and also the latest PostgreSQL it supports the JSON beans to store the JSON document like NoSQL databases. Okay, and exception handling is little different in the Spring Boot application, and also how to write the custom status codes. So API, we know that the Spring Boot application, it doesn't support the API document. Basically, the Spring Boot REST services, so it doesn't provide default documentation, right? So we need to write the custom configuration to write the API documentation by using this Swagger, or there is a open specification API or something. Okay, so there are different APIs are available. So JSON and Lombok, I think you might be aware. So it is to generate the setter getters in the during the compilation time. So I now need to write setter getter or equals hash code, even constructors. There are different advantages with the Lombok. Okay, JSON. So that is a mapper. So when you have the JSON document, let's say if you wanted to convert from JSON to the Java and again Java to JSON, so you can use the JSON mapper. So unit testing, so that is with the JUnit and again Mockito. Okay, and Spring Boot with Dynamo. Anyway, we already talked about. And cache. So how we are going to implement the cache? Because RESTful services are stateless. So that is what the microservices. It is one part of the 12-factor application. So we have the 12-factor application, right? So in the 12-factor application says, so the microservices application should be the RESTful services. REST in the sense, so the servers will not maintain any state for the client. So whenever the request comes from the client, so the server will treat as the fresh request. So it will hit the database and gets the data. Again, problem with the databases. So if when you go with the cloud database, the charges will be based on the some request hits and all. So we need to reduce the cost as well, and also we need to increase the application performance by implementing the external cache mechanism, either with Redis or Memcached or any other cache. Okay, and again versioning. So nowadays we can see a lot of the services are multiple. They are available with the multiple versions. So here also we can implement the RESTful versioning with the Spring Boot application, and also the Spring Boot profiling. How do you implement the services for the multiple environments? That is with the profiling. And again, challenges with the monolithic and the introduction to the microservices. So first we'll be talking about the differences between the monolithic and microservice application, and again 12-factor application. So that is very much important when you are going to work on the microservice applications. And again, service registry with the Netflix Eureka, right? Inter-process communication with the discovery client, and again there are load balancing with the ribbon and the Fiend client. And how do you maintain the fallbacks with the historic fallback or the circuit breaker pattern? And how do you maintain the configurations with the configuration server? Okay, so there are a different configuration servers. So one is the Spring Cloud config, and we have the Vault configuration. So when you go with the AWS, they have the AWS parameter store, right? There are different things are available. And Joule API Gateway, and also I'll be talking about AWS API Gateway as well. Microservices security with OAuth 2 and JWT tokens. So Spring Boot admin server. Again, this OAuth 2 JWT is not required when you deploy your applications with the AWS, because they have their own service called AWS Cognito. Okay. So AWS Cognito, it provides the authorization authentication mechanism, so directly to the UI application, not to the backend application. So we don't need to write anything from the backend application. Only the UI we need to write this. Okay, so distributed tracing with the Spring Cloud, Zipkin, and Slug, and multi-data source connection. So let's say if you wanted to have the multiple database connections with the single boot application, so how do we configure it? Because Spring Boot supports only single data source, not the multiple data source, right? So, and containerize the applications with the Docker, and how do we use the Docker Compose and ELK overview? So Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. And microservice applications, AWS Cloud deployment with the ECS Forward cluster. So this is the serverless, okay, and CI/CD with AWS Code Pipeline. And also I'll be talking about anyway. So here we are going to discuss on Forward cluster, DynamoDB, and relational database side. I'll be showing at least one or two databases, and IAM. So these are the additional services that I'm covering from the AWS, and also EC2, that is the cloud compute machine, and the S3 for storage, and also you can deploy the static website in AWS S3. Okay, so this is the course content. So let me know if you have any specific requirement or anything that I need to cover here. Yeah, Vishnu, Amrit. So let me know if you have any clarifications or anything. Yeah. So do you have any questions, Vishnu? Okay. What about you, Amrit? Okay. So demo, max I'll take only 25 to 30 minutes only, not more than that. So earlier I was not giving any demos and all, but now again I'm giving the demos max 30 to 25 to 30 minutes. Okay. So let me know if you are interested. So Saturday evening 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'll be starting a new batch. So you can send me an email or you can call me this number if you wanted to discuss on the fee details if you are interested. Okay. Okay. So this is the batch. I'm giving more discount. So let me know. Yeah, that I'll. Okay. So we'll talk about that fee. Amrit, you can call me or you can share me your number. I'll call you after this demo. Okay. So can you share your contact number, Amrit? Okay. If you can share your contact number, we can directly discuss. Vishnu, can you? Okay. Okay then. Yeah. Yeah. If you are interested, send me a mail. Okay. So we'll talk about that. Yeah. Okay then. Bye.